Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we have a ton of news. But first, we have to talk about what Anthony Noto just tweeted because I feel like he's addressing a lot of retail concerns and about comments that potentially even I have made on this channel. So first, let's start with SoFi, and then we have other companies to go through tonight. Anthony Noto has had enough, okay? Let's break it all down. This was the whole tweet, but no need to pause. Let's go through every word. First up, rest assured, I see and read every word about our company, our team, and me. It takes great restraint not to reply and correct the massive disconnect by some between what is critical to do and when to do it versus when it is not critical to do. It also takes restraint not to immediately react impulsively to defend my team from what I perceive is an unfair and unjust treatment. So first up, I want to say this might have to do with comments that I potentially have also made about their team being a slower engineering team than, let's say, the likes of Nubank or Robinhood. So potentially that is unfair and unjust, but I also don't get to see what's going on in the background. So from my perspective, outside looking in, it does look, that they're not putting out products at the same rate. I am responsible for whatever does or does not happen, period, no excuses. So he's saying that the slow launch in their products or something along these lines has completely everything to do with him and not their team at all. Now, don't get me wrong. I want everything done yesterday, and no one is pushing harder for me to move faster and faster and faster every second of every minute of every hour of every day with a founder's mentality than me. That's always been my approach. But doing everything is not realistic, and most of what people may think is important is miscalculated. Do I strike you as a person that knows what needs to be done and decides not to do it? Or perhaps what one thinks needs to be done that is not the right priority? Now, I immediately think of Stephen Fiorillo and his want for business accounts or wealth management tools, where Anthony Noto is saying, hey, those aren't actually our priority right now, but we will get to them. We want to push hard, but it's also about putting out the right things. And we know what to do, right? Obviously, Stephen would agree with that, but it's just hard sometimes to watch from the outside in without a lot of communication. Now, that's not to say that we are moving at the pace we want. We never will. We'll make mistakes in execution that cause delays, so learning fast is critical. And we are not always as fast as we would want on everything we do, but sometimes being fast out of the gate can cause one to be much slower later, which is the case in a couple of things. Only to be able to move 5x faster in the future. Speed matters. Okay, this is what he's saying. And he's saying we will fail if we are not to be fast. But fast and wrong is also failure. That's very important. I think a lot of that actually connects to the fast rate of product releases at Robinhood that I have felt like has been a big bull case to them. Anthony Noto is actually pointing out, hey, these might be the ways that they're working at their products right now, but it might not always work. And that can also lead to failure. We need to make sure that what we put out is ironed out. And I just want to see how that actually translates to good execution. Anthony Noto has already covered that. A sustainable competitive advantage is a critical success factor that all should be judged. And in this sector, sustainable competitive advantages is grossly misunderstood. And for that, I could not be more grateful. You can be sure that I will not correct those incorrect points of views, and I would never mention other companies in any regard. It's just not who I am. We will focus on our strategy, our priorities, and we will execute and deliver just like we have over the last 7 years. Is the world accelerating again? Yes, you bet it is. And we recognize that way before the last few months, so we are accelerating as well. It was lonely being one of the only few trying to change the world of finance. Through a challenging macro backdrop, regulatory winter, and the worst rate changes in our lifetime. But we uniquely delivered durable growth and a consistent innovation of 20 consecutive quarters. And I mean, this is why I'm still a shareholder of this company. They are executing. Like, no matter what environment you give SoFi, somehow they continue to grow. I mean, that is Anthony Noto's specialty. Okay. And it might actually be too much for me to ask, but I just want them executing at every level. It's not that they haven't been executing. It's that I want them to do well in every category. And obviously that is a lot to ask for, but then in the areas that you're not, tell us why. All right. I welcome everyone to run faster, build better, and have a bigger impact because it will cause us swell as it has in the past, and the biggest and best benefit the most, especially those with the best strategy. The best execution and the fastest builder of competitive sustainable advantages which is different than just making announcements or just shipping. I wonder who he's talking about there. Robinhood. We learned this in 2019 and fixed it in 2020. They definitely did launch a lot of products in 2019. I actually thought that was a very strong year for them. He thinks differently. I couldn't be more confident in our strategy and the sustainable competitive advantage we have and that others do not have, that we will continue to build CSA or sustainable competitive advantage faster than anyone else. We know what we need to do, and we're fully committed to doing it. Who dares wins? Fresh horses, ladies and gentlemen. Some people have different opinions of this. I am definitely on the camp of thinking that this was a very positive post from Anthony Noto. I wish there was more media coverage from him to give investors more than what they're already giving. Anyway, let's get back to it. SoFi Investor Day hopes? Potentially. We might end up seeing a little bit more, as Vadim has found on X that they are looking for a lead AV specialist. What's AV? Audio-visual. What could this potentially help with? Well, oversee AV operations for high-profile events, executive meetings, and live streams, ensuring flawless delivery. Hopefully, this is leading to more coverage of the company and potentially even high-profile events like product launches or investor days. Could be interesting. Now, in other news, Galileo just got recognized for its flexibility, security, and scalability in driving innovation across payment and financial services. In fact, they actually became best in class over other leaders in this space. So thank you to Javelin for putting Galileo as number one. Hopefully this ends up actually seeing a lot more press and everything, because it could lead to, better results for customer signups. Next, could we end up seeing a large sign up in the terms of X, formerly known as Twitter? X Money has recently been announced, but now they're actually starting to get in with a physical debit card. So this could be very interesting, partnering with companies like Visa, but we don't know who they're going to be ending up looking towards for an actual technology stack. Is that someone like Galileo? Could be interesting. I mean, they are best in class, okay, according to Javelin here. So who would X be using? Remember, X used to be formerly called Twitter. You know who else used to formerly work at Twitter? Anthony Noto, Chief Financial Officer. So this would be very interesting. Oh, and Chief Operating Officer. But this would be very interesting if SoFi could also help with this large client offering. All right. Next on the docket, we have Nvidia stock. This is another massive piece of news. OpenAI just closed a $40 billion funding round, okay? Valuing their company at $300 billion. This funding will be used to scale its compute infrastructure, fueling the AI revolution. Sorry, did you say scale its compute infrastructure? OpenAI cannot find enough GPUs. Sam Altman's come out and said, oh my God, you guys are melting our GPUs. We're putting, $65 billion with Oracle. We're putting a ton with Microsoft Azure. We're buying it essentially everywhere. They have a $500 billion Stargate project. This is all going towards AI infrastructure, which is going to be buying GPUs. And who's to benefit more than Nvidia? I think that this is massive news. Next, we have Robinhood news, actually from one of their competitors, but it really starts to bring into light how real what Robinhood is doing. Callsheet just partnered with Webull. So whenever we think about, are event contracts getting stickier, or was this a, sort of a terrible play? Well, I think that this was a very good play from, Robinhood to partner with Callsheet, and we're probably going to see a lot of brokerages start to do this more and more. So hopefully, Robinhood is able and on the ground floor before some of the larger brokerages start also following suit the same way they did follow suit with commission-free trading, for example.